I thought maybe I should post another video. It's Saturday. Someone was concerned about how I was going to get brake fluid into my brakes. I've got my my two master cylinders mounted. I've got my pedal made, and if you see, I put one big pedal on the rears and one small one on the fronts because they don't swing in the same arc. But what I've done is drilled and tapped these 1/8" pipe, and I put barb fittings in. These caps will never come off again. So what I do is these are tied together with a T, comes up to a remote reservoir. I just got done just roughing in. I just wanted to wire this power steering and see how it worked. It acted kind of funny, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm going to put from that power wire, I'm going to mount a toggle switch. As far as control, steering wheels on, power steering units in, tilt wheel. This lets the wheel tilt up and down. That's drive position. And then that is up. That locks it. Accelerator pedal is in there, and it is done. I've mounted my controls, ignition switch, forward or four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive. Then this is my power pod for the starter and everything. I'm still waiting on. I've still got to extend the wiring harness to my display, because my display won't. The wiring harness won't reach up to where it's going to be. It's going to sit right up here. That way I can look right through the center of the windshield to my display. What I'm working on now is trimming up the plastics to get ready to fill in. I have to fill in the space in here. That'll get filled in. This is the last one to trim. I've got three corners done. This one has to be trimmed off so that I can fill this space in with plastic. What else have I done? It's Saturday. I'm waiting on rear brake pads. I had to take the caliper off down there. This thing had a funky master cylinder that sat down here for the rear brake, and it split to go to this brake. Well, when I hooked this up, of course I lost all the fluid. The only way I could get it to bleed from here to the bleeder at that little funky master cylinder, but then I couldn't get it to bleed from there back to the wheel. So what I did was, this is just a flared butt connector. Of course, one side of it was flared, so the flare goes in there just fine. Now this is a banjo bolt, and this is actually well, the pressure switch is built into the banjo bolt, which I'm not going to use for a brake light because I've already got a brake light switch up front. But I was able to throw one more. These have copper washers on them. I put one more copper washer on, and it actually bolted right into that flared butt connection. So that'll get secured, over against the frame. I'm just trying to get all of my systems going. The brakes they're done all but for putting pads on the back. The pads on the front were fine. The pads on the back they're just paper thin. They're not metal to metal, but there's a liner left. But there's another picture of another shot of my front drive shaft where I extended it. It's installed. I've been starting it, just running it a little bit. The problem with that is I haven't filled it back up with antifreeze, because this thing's all going to get torn back apart and painted. So we've got 10 inches of snow on the ground right now, and that's not good test driving weather. So until I test drive it, I'm not going to tear it apart and start painting. And I still got a lot of stuff to do. I got to upholster the seats. I've got to build my console. Of course, I got to fill in the fenders area. I've got plastic that has to be filled in behind these. I've got to make patterns for my doors. I'm considering doing my doors out of aluminum tubing. They tend to take a beating because everything you pass just beats the hell out of it. But what I'm going to do with the door is I'll build the frame with the door, and then I'll shell it with plastic on the outside. Kind of goes against my grain, but that just, I can replace the covering on the outside. And that's still a debate in my head whether I'm going to have the door swing out like an automobile or whether I'm going to have them suicide out. I'm leaning more towards suicide out because I think it's easier to get in and out. But I'll get the frames made up, get them in there, have the seat in, evaluate it one way or the other. Also, I did 2-inch wheel spacers back here. Extended this. I can't remember the number exactly. I think it was like 2 1/4. But these are 5.2 offset, which is 5 inches from the back of the wheel over and 2-inch or 5.2 and 2 inches from the front. I couldn't find aluminum wheels that were reasonable. I didn't want to give $100 a piece for rims, so these are ITPs with the 3/4 offset, which gets me out to, I want to say, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 53 inches, something like that. But I wanted to get just a little bit more wheelbase. I can't really get to the back of it, but it could stand to be just a little bit wider. We'll see how long the wheel bearings last. That's what it takes its toll on, is the wheel bearings. But just little nitpicky shit that's got to get done. I think the biggest project that's to be completed is to tear it back apart and paint. I think that's going to be the biggest project of all of them. Taking everything back off, painting it, and putting everything back together. But that's where I stand today. I may update tomorrow. We'll see. See y'all later.